the 2024 Florida elections approaching, the editorial board reached out to state and federal candidates that are currently on the ballot in the greater Marco Island area.
We asked a variety of questions that can impact many people's lives in Florida, hoping to understand more about each candidate and their intentions if elected.
Candidates are asked a standard set of questions according to their specific office they are running for. Follow-up questions are only asked if a member of the editorial board needs further clarification.
Videos are not edited in any way in order for our audiences to see how candidates authentically answered the questions.
Every election has consequences, and it is important to learn which candidate would best fit each individual voter's values.
We hope that these videos better inform our audience and spark further conversation of the many issues we all face.
Right. So, good morning, Ms. Benarroch. Thank you so much for being here. We know your time is busy this time of month, so we greatly appreciate your time being here. We'd like to introduce ourselves as the editorial board. My name is Emma Nash. I'm the editor-in-chief of the newspaper.
I'm Lauren Riley, and I'm the executive editor for The Lead.
I'm Cassie, and I'm the sports editor of The Lead.
I'm Skylar, and I'm the managing editor of The Lead.
I'm Noah, and I'm the entertainment editor.
I'm Jaden, and I'm the news editor.
I'm Lola, and I'm the opinions editor.
I'm Mia Berryman, and I'm the arts editor.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. So to start off with questions, we're going to have Mia ask the first one.
Is there any background information you'd like to share before we start?
Sure. So my name is Yvette Benarroch. I've been here 21 years to the day, I think. I came here from Puerto Rico, literally with nothing, just luggage and a few bucks to see if I could make it. I had one cousin in Naples, and I met my wonderful husband, had my family, had my children, built my business here. We own a landscaping business. And here I am today, hopefully next Florida House Representative for District 81. I just won my primary, which it was brutal. So I serve the community. I'm a Rotarian. I do Kiwanis. I volunteer at the pantry because I think it is important to give back to the community. I appreciate you guys inviting me because I think it's our schools here in Marco are great, and anything I can do to help keep that alive. And how did I get into politics? To be honest with you, because I think government sometimes get in the way, and owning a business, it got a little difficult. And I'm very passionate about education, and I think there's many things that I think need to be fixed. It shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all. So when I get to the legislature, hopefully I'll be working on some of those things. And when this opportunity came available, Congressman Byron Donalds said he would support me, so I went all in. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and I was prior military. I served in the Air Force, I'm a veteran, but the primary was probably the hardest thing I ever did. Politics, it's a little difficult at times, but you know, we made it through, and hopefully November we'll win, and then you can go visit me at the Florida House.
So in recent years, the college curriculum has restricted education by taking courses such as sociology and African American studies out of the Florida curriculum. And over 2,700 book titles were challenged by the state. Did the restrictions of rights begin where there were restrictions in education?
So the way I look at it, you know, when we're talking about college level, it's a little bit different. What I do work a lot on, it's when it comes to elementary school, middle school, and high school. I think those, we need to pay attention to age-appropriate books. There's certain things that a elementary school student shouldn't be reading or looking at. Lately, we've had a lot of issues with some books that are actually pornographic, in my opinion. I've seen some of those. I don't agree with them being available for elementary school students. I believe parents are free to parent how they want. I'm not gonna tell a parent how to parent, but that should be at home. I think we should be focusing on the things that matter. So when you go to college, students can read, write, and do math, because believe it or not, probably 90% of the students that graduate can't read at third grade level. Now, when we get to college now, I do think that me personally, coming from another country, which is part of the United States, but we're not a state, We're blessed to be Americans by birth. So I appreciate what being an American is. And I think our focus should be on teaching history. Our history hasn't been pretty, but I can tell you, being a veteran and having traveled the world, this is the greatest country in the world. There's nowhere in the world where you can come with nothing like I did and sit here today and tell you I'm gonna be the next Florida State Representative. When it comes to curriculum, having a student in college as a freshman, I think sometimes, to be honest with you, colleges are there to like make money, in my opinion. So if you are gonna be like a computer engineer, like I feel there's things that you don't need, right? But again, things should be available for students. When it comes to the African American curriculum, I do believe that there were some issues on the way it was being taught. History is history. We shouldn't hide from it because it's how we learn from our mistakes. So that's how I feel. But you know, this is a country where we have a lot of freedoms that other countries don't have, and I believe our education system should be focused on making sure that we prepare our students to be successful in whatever they do, because it's expensive. I mean, like I tell you, I have Zachary in college now. It's very expensive. Living expenses, not necessarily like the university per se, but living expenses cost money. A lot of people, I don't think, can afford that. But we have to make sure everybody has the opportunity to go to college or go to trade school, whatever it is that they want to do.
Thank you. In the past year, Florida has banned the use of federal funding for the Department of Equity and Inclusion, which includes a bunch of diversity programs in colleges and universities. Do you have any plans on restoring or fighting for these programs?
So to be honest with you, to me, it should be about merit. We shouldn't be giving extra points for your color of the skin or anything else besides that you deserve to be there. As a Hispanic myself, I have an advantage over other people, right? I get an extra point for being Hispanic. I think everything should be based in merit. Our community is very diverse. I think we include everyone. And like I said, if somebody has the merit and the talents to get a position or to be somewhere, then they deserve to be there. But this nonsense that we should be more concerned about how people look or what their beliefs are, it's really kind of crazy to me. Like, you know, we should be able to have a fair, level playing field because, for example, my kids, you know, they're Latinos because I'm Puerto Rican, but, you know, if you look at them, you can't even tell they have Hispanic blood in them. And I don't think they should have an advantage over someone like you, blonde with blue eyes and white, just because they have Hispanic blood on them. So, I mean, in this country, I mean, there's always gonna be racism, we have to be honest. There's always gonna be that type of people. You can't change that because that's just the reality of the world. But for the most part, I think this country, you can be whatever you wanna be as long as you work hard. I can tell you for myself, I'm sitting here, and when I ran for my primary, and this is a white district, 95% like white, I'm Hispanic, I had less money. My opponent had over $1 million in this race. I had 254,000. I worked very hard, and that's what matters. You work hard, you make it, and that's all it should matter.
Thank you. Schools across the state are going through catastrophic financial cuts, which result in struggles with staffing from teachers to bus drivers and even staff. How do you plan on aiding schools that are already struggling with funds?
So that's one thing I want to do. So I am on the board of the Marco Island Middle School. I'm also a sub-teacher at the middle school, which I think it's the hardest. Not for only for parents, but for students. And it's very stressful to be a teacher these days. It's very stressful to be a bus driver these days because you don't only have to drive a bus, but now you have to also babysit kids in the back of the bus, which is not very safe. So I think we need to definitely work on seeing ways where they can actually earn more money and just focus on what they need to be focused. Like the bus driver should be focused on driving a bus. Teachers should be focused on teaching and not really like dealing with these other issues that put stress on them. And then kids are very stressed, parents are very stressed, so everybody's very stressed. So I believe that's one thing. I can tell you that education is like number one in my books. I believe if we can fix the system, we fix a lot of the problems that we have, and we'll have better citizens, better human beings, and more successful people, whatever they want to do, because everybody's success means different to them. So I plan on tackling that because I do believe it is a problem, and they deserve to get better pay.
Thank you. In June, Governor DeSantis used his veto power to cut a key segment of the state arts budget from $32 million to zero. Naples Players on Fifth Avenue, whom I've been involved with, has been one of the highlights of downtown, and they just built a brand new facility that finally accommodates all individuals that take their classes there. Naples Players is a popular outlet for children all around Naples, and losing $11,000 a month takes a huge hit on their budget that could ultimately lead to them closing, which would take away a safe space for students and adults to learn and grow. If elected, how do you plan to support the arts and ensure that students can continue to have access to these important cultural and creative opportunities?
So very difficult to make everybody happy. 80% of the budget is already compromised by the time we actually go out and spend money. So majority of the budget in Florida, for example, goes to Medicaid, goes to education, goes to Department of Correction. So that's 80% of the budget. Now you have the 20% that you have to work with all these other things that we need to fund, right? Mental health, arts, just an example. In this community particularly, I think we're very lucky because we do have a lot of wealth. I think we need to look into more partnerships with private entities. I mean, there might be some federal grants at the state level. I'm not saying like I won't fund arts, but what I'm saying, and I'll always tell you this one thing about me, I want you to know that I always tell you where I stand, and then we can agree or disagree, but you always know where I stand. There are other priorities that we need to take care of before we go down and see how much money is left. I do agree. I think arts is very important because, you know, some people are just talented and that's the route they want to go. So we need to look for ways to try to fund those. I don't think government is always the answer. I'm a fiscal conservative. I do believe that our taxpayers, we need to be responsible with that money, and there's a lot of other needs that we have to meet. But if we find a way to fund it, or if we find a way to partner up, or if we find creative ways to make sure that arts get funded, I'll make sure that we look at it, and that if it's possible, then I will vote for it.
Thank you. For the last year, Lake Okeechobee's toxic algae blooms have been released into the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. As a result, the surrounding wildlife has been affected through the change in water quality. This is damaging through not only an environmental lens, but an economic one as well. How do you think that lives will be affected for both tourists and residents if water quality continues to decline?
So we've been working on that. We've actually funded a lot of billions of dollars have gone into the Everglades. The issue is we're growing. So as you know, I told you I own a landscaping business. So I actually train other landscapers through University of Florida for best management practices. So they can learn how to fertilize, how to spray pesticides. So when it comes to water, it's a very complex issue. Everybody looks at agriculture, but I can tell you agriculture is a very regulated field. And although, yes, we're not perfect, we have best management practices, and we're doing our best to make sure that we take care of the environment, because the reality is we need to grow food. You know, food is the way that people get controlled. If you read a little bit of history and look at Venezuela, Cuba, the way they control people is by food supply, right? So if we depend, and we saw it in COVID, how we depended on a lot of things coming into the country, and what happened? We run into problems. So we need to make sure we protect our agriculture industry, which is under attack right now. Growth brings another problem, because you have to process that water when people flush the toilet. Like, a lot of people don't think about that, but it is the honest truth. Like, more people, more toilets will be used, and now you have to process more water at the water plants. And if that water plant is not equipped to take out the two nutrients that are most damaging to our water, which are nitrogen and phosphorus, then we have a problem. I think you've read in the paper where our water that we recycle and we use to irrigate the medians has some type of phosphorus, because we just don't have the right infrastructure of the water plant to take that out. So that's an issue. Septic tanks, another issue. So we still have people on septic tanks. Septic tanks leak, and that goes into the waterways. Nobody talks about golf courses. They use nitrogen. So it's a very complex issue. My belief is that every industry has to work together, and us as homeowners, students, citizens, we also need to do our part, because sometimes it's easier to blame somebody else, but you know, we're also responsible. You know, pick up your poop for your dog. Don't fertilize by the water. Don't hire an unlicensed person that doesn't know what they're doing. So there's many things we can do. So, but it's I'm not gonna lie, it's a very complex issue, because it's a combination of things, and as we grow, it's gonna become even more difficult to manage.
Thank you. Since elementary school, we have been taught drills to protect ourselves from potential threats on our lives. It is terrifying that things have progressed to the extent we're going to the mall, movies, concerts, festivals, and even places of work have become a danger to our lives. So what do you think is the answer to protect ourselves?
I go back to what I said at the beginning. Education is the answer to the problem. I think COVID really hurt our students. We are, by nature, social creatures, and we need to be socializing. I remember when my kids were little, at 2 years old, I made sure that they went to daycare, because they have to have that socializing, right? That's how we are. We gotta all live together in this world. And we need to stop being selfish. It's not about us. It's about everyone. We all have rights in this country. I am a constitutionalist. I believe our Constitution is probably one of the greatest documents that exist. Other countries know it is. They've tried to copy it, but you know, like I said, this is the greatest country in the world, and I'm scared that it's going another route that I never saw coming, and we need to protect it. So going back to your question, we need to make sure that we understand that your rights and my rights matter, and that everyone has value, and we need to learn how to live together. How do we do that? Go back to the education. Make sure that we, from early learning all the way to college, we make sure that kids understand that it is not about one person, you. We can't be selfish, because we all have to live together, even with the environment, water, animals, wildlife. And if we do that, and I think we need to go back to maybe, I'm a fan of field trips. I think we stopped taking kids out of the school to go see agriculture, to go see different things. Because I think when you have an emotional attachment to something, right, you're better. You're a better person. And give an example, I always tell my guys, make sure you treat our customers right, because if they like you, they most likely won't fire me, right? Because they have that emotional connection to the workers. It's the same thing, and I think we lost that in COVID. Like, I do believe we lost that emotional connection, and then technology comes into play. Like, with technology, like, you're really not interacting. So we need to go back to interacting getting emotions into the equation, but always thinking that your decisions can't be based on emotions. They need to be very thoughtful and also thinking of the good for everyone, not yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, like everything you've done so far. But since Roe v. Wade was overturned, many have been questioning what this means for the future of reproductive rights in healthcare and for women in America. As women, we have been watching the country debate the rights of our bodies in a constant tug of war. What do you believe is the strongest way to advocate for women's rights?
So I am pro-life. I'm not gonna shy away from that. I have a personal story. Abortion is not empowering, actually breaks you and scars you for life. As a young girl, nobody should be going through that. It's a horrible process. I understand the medical needs. It's a medical procedure that exists because there's certain times where it needs to be done. The issue becomes that's only probably less than 1% of our abortions are actually needed procedures. It has become more of abortion on demand. Go back to education, because although we have the right to our bodies, we have to understand that there's another body inside. And as a woman, I don't want to continue to, I want more women to be born, right? I want more Hispanics to be born as a Hispanic, if we're going to go that route. I will always fight for life, but to be honest with you, I don't think it's a legislative issue, although we do legislate. I think it's a cultural issue, it's a hard issue, and I do believe that we need to educate women to make them understand that there's other options available when it comes to having an unwanted pregnancy. But regardless how you look at it, I can tell you from personal experience that having children is a blessing, and having an abortion is probably the most horrific thing you'll ever have to live with as a 16, 17-year-old. So.
And like you said, there's other options for like young mothers who are having
Yes.
their kids. Do you plan on supporting those young single mothers, like in terms of care, shelters, support?
Yes, because I think we haven't done a good job about saying that we care about that woman that has to make that decision, right? Nobody talks her through the process, especially young, because usually where you see it's when they're young, right? You're scared, you don't think you can make it. I've been to many legislative hearings when we were trying to pass the pro-life bill, and literally all I heard was that children were a financial burden, and they're really not. They're a blessing. I mean, you loving somebody more than yourself, you only know that once you become a mother, and that is a whole new level. Like, you really understand the level of what it is that you really don't matter, that there's somebody else that's more important than you. There's a lot of women that can't have children, and they want children. Well, there's adoption, right? I know daycare is very expensive. We need to provide those resources, because we need to be pro-life, but all the way, right? We can't ask a young girl, listen, have the baby, we'll be here for you, and then when the baby's 2 years old, then we forget about it, right? Because they still have to go through the process, and then more when there's issues, like health issues, that it's gonna be like more difficult for that mother. So I think we haven't done a good job helping and letting that mother know that, listen, we love the baby, but we love you too, and we're gonna take care of both. So yes, so I will find ways to make sure that we have those resources available.
Yes, and we just have a few closing remarks, kind of like little questions. And what about your campaign has affected your views on immigration?
Nothing has affected my views on immigration, because the system is broken, so we really need to fix it. The issue becomes, it's a federal issue, right? It is a federal issue that I just don't think the federal government, to be honest with you, is ever gonna solve it, because they're using politics to, both parties, right, to hang on to that fight. I know it's been promised for I don't know how many years, as far as I can go back, that we're gonna fix it, and a lot of people came here a long time ago for work. Like, we can't deny those people that have been here 20 years, 10 years, that have been actually working. And now what happens is, when you have this open border right now where anybody can come in, number one, it's a safety issue. You really don't know what's coming in. I can guarantee you, it's not the working people that came 20 years ago. It is not. Drugs are pouring over. Bad things are happening to women and kids. I can tell you, there's a program where they can sponsor a child that comes into this country, which is very worrisome to me, without a parent. So anybody can go over there and become a sponsor. Well, guess what happens? Like, we have over 300 children in this county alone, and we don't know where they're at. Like, there's no information. There's over 600 in Lee County. You don't know where they're at, what happened, if they're being abused, if they're going to school, nothing, because the federal government refuses to give our state the information. So it is a problem. It is very expensive for somebody to try to bring their family here legally. It is very expensive for somebody to try to fix their status here. I met a lady when I was knocking on doors. She's a nurse. She's from Ecuador. She's an American citizen. She's trying to bring her father here. Well, they told her 18 years, and I don't know how many thousands of dollars in attorney's fees. She's a single woman trying to become a nurse, right? So that's a problem, because now you have all these people coming in that not only go in front of the line of people like this nurse that I met while knocking on doors, student, but also the millions that have been here for many years working, right, that they haven't been able to fix their status. They're gonna go back to the end of the line, and they've been here, they've had children here that are American citizens, so it is a big problem. So I will say that at the state level, we can try to do things where resources don't go to illegals, because the reality is, when I'm a veteran, and when I see a veteran homeless, when I see my father, my dad, that's a veteran, 92-year-old Korean War veteran, having to wait months for service, to see a doctor, like, that's a problem. When I see my mother, like, she can't afford her medical bills, but then we're giving all these resources to, unfortunately, I'm very kind, but you gotta take care of your people first, and then you go out the door and you're kind to others, right? Like at your house, like, you take care of your kids and your family, and then you go out and help others. Well, here we have left our own citizens behind, our veterans behind, our seniors behind. So, I will do everything I can at the state level to make sure that resources don't go where they don't need to go, and they go to veterans, seniors, and our children. And we need to press our federal government, because it's a big problem. It is a big problem, and it needs to be fixed.
Thank you. Just one last remark. If elected at the end of your term, where do you hope to see the state of Florida? Just from your perspective.
So I think this is a wonderful, probably the greatest state in the nation, not only because we have great weather, we have a little bit of everything here, right? And then you have the East Coast and the West Coast, and then you have the northern part where it gets a little chilly there, and then it gets hot here, and then the East and the West are very different. So we're like a very diverse state. We have plenty of cultures, right? If you go to the Orlando area and you want to experience some Puerto Rican food, you have like a little town there that's literally have more Puerto Ricans than Puerto Rico itself, right? We have a lot of Cubans, a lot of Vietnamese, like I love Vietnamese food, and you're seeing, so I would say, like, this state, we need to fix our water, because I think that's a problem. We also need to fix the insurance issue. I want you to be able to afford to buy a home when the time comes, and right now it's very unaffordable. So cost of living, it's very important, so I'll be working on that. And where do I want to see the state of Florida? I want to see us as a leader in education, as a leader in freedom, as a leader in business, economy. I want to see Florida to be number one across the nation, and people looking at us and coming here and asking, what are you doing? I want education to be the best in the state, and I promise you, one thing I'm very passionate is I'm gonna look for ways to make sure that happens, because I think we have so much potential here in the state, and public education needs to be reformed. It's not a one size fits all. I have boys, and I see two here, but I think the education system, especially schools, is more difficult for boys than for girls, because boys, like, I don't know, they're boys, like, they can't be sitting around 7 hours a day, like, not moving, right? Like, they're just boys, and it's very difficult. I know I have two at home, so we need to fix it, because I think, I believe it in my heart, that if we fix our education system, like, we will be a better country, and we'll have better people, better citizens, and I think it'll be good for everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you, Ms. One last thing. Was there just anything else you'd like to include that maybe we didn't go in depth about or discuss in this discussion? Anything else?
No, just be proud to be an American. Make sure you register to vote. Make sure that that's your voice, and we need younger people to get involved in politics, because I don't see many getting involved. I would love to, once I get elected, come back here and talk to you about things maybe we can do here to get more of our younger voters involved, because you are our future leaders, right?
We'd
like
to have you back. Yeah.
Like, one of these days, one of you, I'll be supporting to go for the House, Congress, whatever it is. So we need to make sure that we get more involved in politics. And for you guys, I can't even tell you how proud of this school and what you guys are doing here, because I remember when we had the trailers, and I mean, we've come a long way. This is probably like the most beautiful school. I mean, around the state, I don't think I've seen one most beautiful school than this one. And it was hard work, because Jane didn't give up, right? And I am so glad, because you guys are all so smart, and I mean, we'll put together, like, I'm like, you're not even nervous to interview me. And so I am very grateful for the invitation, and I hope when I get elected, because I will get elected November 5th, you come see me in the Florida House, and just let me know when, so I can give you a shout out from the floor. Yes, and you get to see government at work, and we get to take pictures, so please come visit. Tell your teacher, trip, like field trip. And thank you so much for the
Thank you so
opportunity.
much.